Our next speaker is Luca Pascotto from the FIA, which is the Federation Internationale de l'Automobile, and this is helping companies build a culture of safety. The FIA Road Safety Index. So over to you, Luca.
Thank you, Jamie, and good morning to everyone. I'm sure you're familiar with the FIA also for our role of a governance body of motorsport and F1 and all the championship where we try to apply the Vision Zero approach to motorsport quite successfully, luckily. But we also had a network of 150 plus clubs around the world. In the UK, you are for sure familiar with AICC and the ICC Foundation and AIM, and of course our FIA Foundation that works very much on safe and sustainable mobility. What I'm trying to present to you, and we can go right to the next slide in a few minutes now, actually has very much to do, particularly with the first part of the session this morning with Tanya, Patrick, and Phoebe, how to build a culture of safety. And this is a global program, and I would like you to look at this presentation from a not purely UK perspective, where you have a strong policy in place when you have a government with a strategy, but from a global perspective, because we think we need to engage more private sector in road safety, and we'll learn a lot during this morning and the way you can do. So the Road Safety Index we have designed and in cooperation with the experts from Sweden that were behind the Vision Zero approach to safety is a methodology to assess road safety performance from a value chain perspective. It's really a call for action throughout the value chain of organization. That's why we can target international organization that operates in several countries, several markets. And we'll try to apply it to try to convince them to take a look at safety dimension and aspect. The concept of carbon footprint, which is well known in corporation. They are used to report about that. They are used to introduce in sustainability reporting, but very often the safety component is not indicated in the sustainability reporting. But building from that, we build a methodology, part of which we already made available, and we already started assessing company that wants to be part of the program. And I will elaborate a little bit more. We design manuals the same way as other organizations shown us today, and we will end up with a rating program because we want to give them a sense of rewards, of achievement, but also a tool to measure progress over time. We can go to the next slide. I think many of the speakers before mentioned the importance of road transport, occupational road safety, and in many countries it's not been internalized in regulation, procurement, and also the reporting side. And the occupational road safety is still seen as a matter of individual driver behavior and not as something the organization can take. And there are, of course, several safe system approach documents that has been published, and also UN resolution. I put here on screen something that has been adopted by the UN in June a few months ago about the importance for businesses and industry to report on safety impact. And they mentioned the concept of footprint for the first time, which is very important, we believe, in the corporate sector. Next slide, please. Through our index, we can show what a company has done to control safety throughout the operation. The index doesn't include any prescriptive measure. We ask organization and company to show how they handle some aspect of safety, which are the measures put in place to protect employers, but also third parties, and how company, for example, steer procurement, particularly in contracted party businesses, because that's part of their value chain, and that's one we can have a strong improvement in safety. As I mentioned, introduces the concept of a traffic safety footprint, and the result in a rating system that can be used also in ESG reporting that are very frequently used by many organizations in Europe and around the world. Next slide, please. This is the methodology we have been using. It's a protocol that is publicly available, as the previous one that is mentioned for rail sector. At the moment covers 2 or 5 modules because we really want to make it easy for organization to come in. Again, read it from a global perspective. So this results in 10 questions at the moment to cover the full basic supply chain, 7 of which are looking at commitment. And I think we all know how important is commitment from top management. So we want to see and to ask if and at which level organization apical position are stating the safety is important, that they have policy in place. If they have statement in the media about that coming from president, CEO of the company, board of management, we ask whether there is a safety targets in the organization, if there is midterm targets, if and how there are indication to follow law and regulation, and how safety performance factors that we know are key are managed within the organization when it comes to speed, vehicle procurement, fitness to drive, and safety gear for organizations mainly that are using motorcycles. The second part of the second module and the other 3 questions about methods the organization are been using to control and to understand the number of crashes, fatality, and serious injuries throughout employees, contracted party, and third party. We also believe that it's important to have an engagement with the private sector, so it's not a name and blame. There will be no benchmarking. Of course, some benchmarking will come the moment you will compare the rating of organization, but this is not something we want to do as the NCAP movement is doing or the IRAP movement is doing. We are proposing self-assessment approach, so everyone can undertake this pre-assessment, and of course then contact us to have a full validation that comes with a rating. We use external experts, so the FIA is not involved in the final accreditation, and part of our strategy, of course, is also to expand the capacity, audit capacity that we have, particularly because we are deploying this program at global level. Next slide, please. This is a typical questions of how the methodology structure for the 10 questions I mentioned. This is an example that you can get from 0 to 3 points depending on the way you respond and the way you can bring evidence during the accreditation phase. And of course, the cumulated points will result in 1 to 3 level or stars, or we call it level because it's more check marks and is reflected in the logo. We know that stars are very known in the safety community, particularly for benchmarking what car crashes and road infrastructure. Next slide, please. In terms of principle on the index, I think we also saw recently the plan to check act circle-based approach, and this is the same that is part of the index approach. We also are been using terminology and principles that are in the ISO standard. The ISO is more specific. We wanted to make it easier also for organizations that want or what consider entering the ISO, particularly 39001 standard, to start preparing for that. So we use a common structure and common methodology also for other ISO standards that are available, particularly for the private sector, and there are used principles for the climate, health, and equity reporting, so that they could be an added value for organization to include in what they have been already doing in terms of sustainability reporting. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the accreditation process comes with external expertise. We normally work in a digital way. After a company has done a pre-audit, we suggest how to continue, and we only publish the result if there is a full alignment from an organization and company perspective. Again, because we really want to engage, and we have some cases where company went back and do some homework, changed some policy, and came to us with a review assessment, and that's the kind of dynamics we want to see. Also to improve from a structural point of view safety, and again we have learned a lot in the previous presentation how this is relevant. Next slide, please. In terms of opportunity, this is a kind of also added value the FIA can bring into bring more visibility to organizations that are entering this process and are comfortable in having disclosure about the safety traffic footprint performance. And of course, we try to use also motorsport event to bring them. As you know, there are many corporations that are part of the ecosystem in motorsport, and that is an area where we also can work. But also international events like the International Transport Forum or the World Bank, and so this is a kind of support also we can give through the FIA. Next slide, please. Just some mention on the engagement we have. The program has been launched a couple of years ago. It was coming from a recommendation of the previous Global Ministerial Conference in Stockholm, and we take during the COVID time to elaborate on this. We have worked with some private sector companies that you see on the left side. Oil sector was mentioned as being very advanced in safety performance, but also other corporations that are not immediately linked to safety, like IKEA. Well, Autoliv is a supplier, but IKEA is more difficult. So at the moment we have two companies from the oil sector that completed with maximum score the audit and also the first car manufacturer. And we have at least 15 companies that will be completed before the end of the year. But at the same time, we are promoting policy workshop with decision maker, because there is a key role in policy maker to recommend and introduce policy recommendation in this space, as well as workshop with industry using also our network club. We have done an interesting engagement in low and middle income country in Guatemala, in Singapore, and in more. Well, Singapore is not a low and middle income country, but we are been using our network to facilitate the engagement of company, particularly where at policy level there is no road safety strategy in place. And we were happy to see this concept reflected in the UN resolution back in June. And another thing we have done as FIA, at least, as we have introduced some changes in our policy. So whenever in the motorsport community we have a tender or a bid for single supply, imagine tires, for example, we will start asking as part of the sustainability criteria if an organization has been reporting about traffic safety footprint. Next slide, please. That is the roadmap of next year. We will give visibility to this first 10, 15 company that will be using the index in the 4th Global Ministerial Conference in Marrakesh. I'm sure you all are aware of this event in February. And this is where also we'll made available the full methodology is prepared, but we didn't open up yet, again, because we wanted to have some level of easy engagement, we believe, because the minimum you can ask to organization is to look at commitment and footprint. We'll be looking at expanding audit capacity. So if also some of the organizations that are in the meeting that are interested, please feel free to reach out. And we will continue the engagement with our network, global network club. We believe that this kind of program has a very large opportunity, particularly in low and middle income country, to bring up to speed the organization that have been operating in this space. Next slide, please. And I think that's all the materials, documents, guidance for use, and all the framework is available on this website. So you can download, have a look, and again, available for engaging with additional Q&A on another session. Thank you. Back to you, Jamie.